Hello, welcome to this latest video lesson focusing on the language paper and in particular the narrative question. Typically, it depends on which exam board you do, but typically it'll be language paper 1, section B. Okay, narrative writing, writing a story. Now, you'll see here I've gone through the mark schemes of the 4 main exam boards. The skill sets are exactly the same. I've copied the top band level descriptors for each of the exam boards: AQA, OCR, EDUCAS and Edexcel. The only thing that's slightly different, if you look in the box in the bottom corner, it tells you the mark and the minute allocation for each exam board. So it's either 40 marks or 20 marks. I'm not going to read through these. It's AO5 and AO6. AO5, content and organisation. AO6 is your SPAG, your technical accuracy. We'll have a look at both of those in a minute, and I'll give you examples of each. So you can pause the video on your particular exam board and have a little look, familiarise yourself with the level descriptors, the top band level descriptors on each. There's AQA, there's EDUCAS, which was the Welsh board. There's OCR, which is the one that's a bit atypical. It's actually paper 2. The other 3 are on paper 1. This is paper 2. They just like to be difficult. No, I'm joking. And there's Edexcel. Okay, right. So you'll see my filming box is in the way a little bit. So in the exam, EDUCAS, you'll get a selection of 4 titles to choose from. You must write a narrative piece relating to one of those titles. AQA and OCR, you'll have the choice between writing a descriptive task relating to a picture or to write a narrative piece. And Edexcel, you will write a narrative piece. You'll have one question will provide a picture prompt and the other will just be a general theme. You choose one. Okay. Now, regardless of which exam board you're in, the examiner's looking for the same things. So your story must suit the title plot. For example, if your title is an exciting weekend, it is expected that whatever you discuss must be considered A, exciting, and B, take place over the course of a weekend. If the examiner suspects that you have got a prepared answer, you will lose marks. Also, I should point out that if your story follows closely to a famous film's plot, you won't get sufficient credit for that either. They're looking for an original piece of writing. And it should follow the following graph. So exposition means the kind of setup at the start, the rising action coming to the climax, then the falling action and the denouement, the resolution. Because it's a short story, because you don't have an awful lot of time, I would recommend 1 or 2 main characters, 1 main event. Don't complicate things even. Try and complicate things like me talking. Okay, but that's if you've got if you do your attention graph for your story and it's a flat line, then you've put the examiner to sleep. Okay, it needs to be not flat and with plenty of rising action and a few obstacles for the main character to overcome. Okay, now you'll notice that in the 40 marker and the 20 marker is split into AO5 and AO6. Content and organisation is AO5, so on the 20 markers that's worth 12 marks, and on the 40 markers that's worth 24 marks. The other side of that is the more technical aspects of your writing. So 8 marks on the 20 mark questions and 16 marks on the 40 mark questions. And so I've looked at the top band, and this is what the examiner is looking for. You will need to have a variety of the following: sentence structures, sentence starters, paragraphs, punctuation, and vocabulary. You will also require accurate spelling, as marks are rewarded for this too. Now, I say to my students, before they hand me a piece of writing, I'll ask them the following questions. I'll say, right, look at your piece of work. Name or list to me the first word in each sentence. And if they all sound similar, like the subject, the object, subject each time, the, he, then I'm not interested, because that's going to put me to sleep. Think about how you might vary the start of your sentence, maybe with an adverb, even with the verb. Not all the time, but it's a variety is the key word. Another question I ask them is to read out your shortest sentence. If it's got more than 5 words, I'm not interested. To ensure that you're kind of building tension, you need to have a variety of sentence structures, and short sentences are very, very good at quickening the pace of the action. It's one thing to have paragraphs, that's important, but you can have a variety of paragraphs. You can have a single sentence paragraph if you want. Okay, so the exam is going to be looking for a variety of paragraphing and a variety of punctuation. Okay, so you might have an exclamation mark, a semicolon, in your complex sentences, a couple of commas, and so on, and a more sophisticated vocabulary. But even if you're not sure about how to spell this word, go for it anyway. You'll get more credit for a more sophisticated vocab than if you play safe and get all your simple words spelled correctly. Okay, now there's quite a lot of information here, so do pause it and take notes as we go. So just to break down those 5 varieties: a variety of sentence structures. Simple sentences, short, sharp sentences help to build tension. Compound, complex, they're longer sentences, help to give more detail, linking ideas with connectives. These will also give you the opportunity to expand your vocabulary and to possibly include some language features, which is the other part of the exam criteria. A variety of sentence starters. As I've said, your sentence should begin in different ways, using time phrases, firstly, next, then, finally, etc. is one thing which will depict the order of events. Connectors are also useful to link ideas together and move from one to another. However, moreover, consequently, unfortunately, or as I've said, start with a verb, start with the adverb, and so on. Okay, paragraphing, I've explained that. Here's some punctuation points you can use. Apostrophe, hyphen, question mark, exclamation mark. If you don't know specifically what one of these is for, do a little Google search. Plenty of examples there. Okay, sophisticated vocabulary. I've explained that you get more credit for an enhanced language use than for playing safe and keeping it simple. Do check, I've got another video lesson which focuses on enhancing your vocabulary specifically, so coming up with synonyms for common use words. So do check that one out. Over on, I forgot to say, over on mrhonline.co.uk you'll find plenty of resources there. Okay, now the language features, don't ignore them for your narrative piece. You need to paint for the reader a very, very clear, vivid picture of what you're writing about, what you're describing, where the action's taking place, what the senses are, the feelings and emotions of your character, whether you're narrating it or whether you're just doing it in first person narrative. Okay, so try and appeal to the 5 senses. Some linguistic devices you could use: metaphor, onomatopoeia, personification, simile. You should also ensure to include a variety of language such as adjectives, adverbs and connectives. You should know what they all mean now. So, how to get the marks? Well, you need a unique idea, so an original piece of writing. Try not to base your story on a film or story that already exists. However, remember, nothing is original, so don't worry about mirroring something a little bit too closely. Consider the different genres that are available to you. You don't always have to resort to writing an action thriller. Your story will stand out if you have clear descriptions throughout. This isn't limited to setting. Your characters should be well developed with vivid descriptions of their physical appearance, elements of their personality, and even vocabulary that tells a reader the way they move and speak. So, a good opening. Always students say, I don't know how to start it. So, I've jotted down, I've copy and pasted a few sample openings from a few published novels. So one thing is a memorable protagonist, a memorable main character. For example, Holden Caulfield in The Catcher in the Rye speaks directly to the reader in first person. If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is where I was born and what my lousy childhood was like and how my parents were occupied and all before they had me and all that David Copperfield kind of crap. But I don't feel like going into it if you want to know the truth. So this opening is effective because we get a strong sense of the character's personality in his use of curse words, slang and adjectives, crap and lousy, for example. Being addressed directly by the narrator, it creates a sense of closeness and familiarity in the reader. So we feel a connection with the narrator because he's speaking in the first person. He's like speaking directly to us, using direct address, if you. Okay. Another good opening may be a crucial memory. For example, Christopher, the narrator in The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night Time, recalls a memory in the opening lines. It was 7 minutes after midnight. The dog was lying on the grass in the middle of the lawn in front of Mrs. Shear's house. Its eyes were closed. It looked as if it was running on its side, the way dogs run when they think they're chasing a cat in a dream. But the dog was not running or asleep. The dog was dead. There was a garden fork sticking out of the dog. Right, this immediately raises questions for the reader. And this is all the more effective because we see the memory through Christopher's own eyes, rather than being told about it in third person, so we're even closer to the action. We can imagine looking out onto the lawn and seeing a dead dog lying on its side with a pitchfork sticking out of the side of it. And we're wondering how the hell that happened. Now the reader wonders not only about the significance of the memory, but how Christopher came to be in such a situation. Did Christopher kill the dog? Did Christopher witness the dog being killed? Now, God, hope your eyesight's a little bit better than mine, but at least if you're on your smartphones, you can zoom into this. An ambiguous action, so slightly confusing action, what's going on. So, for example, a famous dystopian novel by Ray Bradbury called Fahrenheit 451 contains no context but is action-packed. So it starts, "It was a pleasure to burn. It was a pleasure to see things eaten, to see things blackened and changed. With the brass nozzle in his fists, with this great python spitting its venomous kerosene upon the world, the blood pounded in his head, and his hands were the hands of some amazing conductor playing all the symphonies of blazing and burning to bring down the tatters and charcoal ruins of history." So what the hell is burning? I've no idea. Well, I do know because I've read the book, but after having read that, I'd have no idea. Okay, so you can, so long as you then proceed to fill the gaps in for the reader over the course of the story. If you've written your story and the examiner's come to the end of it and still hasn't got the faintest idea what the hell is going on, well, content and organisation part of your story is not going to score all that highly. Giving broader context. So, for example, the opening to The Secret History deliberately informs the reader about what will take place in the story. The snow in the mountains was melting and Bunny had been dead for several weeks before we came to understand the gravity of our situation. So, okay, that was, again, lots of questions. It gives away that key information, which in turn helps the reader understand that it is not the murder that is the crucial factor, but the motive for the murder itself. Techniques like a flashback or a flash forward may help in order to tell your story. And I think this is the last one. Unexpected opening from I Capture the Castle. I write this sitting in the kitchen sink. Right then. Okay, well, I can picture it. It's a bit of an unusual image I've got in my head. I write this sitting in the kitchen sink. How? Why? Well, I don't know. Lots of intrigue with that opening line. I like it. Short sentence too. Okay, finally then, quick quiz. There are 12 genres here. I mean, there's probably plenty more, but I've got down 12. Can you guess them? Right, so pause it now if you don't want to know. So we'll fly around. Family, crime, mystery, romance, action, adventure, fantasy, drama, comedy, sci-fi, historical, horror, thriller, psychological. Okay, so that's plenty of guidance and advice on the narrative question. Go back over the video. There's plenty contained within it. Do pause it and take down notes as and when you see fit. And do head on over to mrhonline.co.uk, mrhonline.co.uk, where you'll find many more videos like this one, covering language and literature. Every exam board catered for, most texts catered for at the moment. But again, if you find gaps in the resources there, do drop me an email and I'll do my very best to plug those gaps as quickly as possible. Okay, hope it was useful. See you guys again. Bye.